why do you come off at all at this point rather than just doing low dose TRT between
Because I
cycles?
want to have kids in 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't. I take steroids because I want to train harder than I'm able to drug free, right? And of course, I want to change my physique. But I don't take steroids because I want to compete or I want to be super freaky big, right? It's most cases just from a cosmetic perspective to look a little bit better than average and to recover from the training that I highly enjoy doing, which I would like to train more than my body can recover from without the drugs. That's what I always suffered from when I was drug free. I would just train, work myself into the ground. Now, I come off because I do need a 2 or 3 month period where I'm not that invested, just to kind of reset. So this whole idea of doing ACG monotherapy was just to improve testicular function without exogenous testosterone in the picture. Do a fertility test, see if fertility is now better compared to on cycle, which I still have decent fertility on cycle because I continue with
Really?
ACG. Yeah, my like I did 250 IOs ACG 3 times per week the entire way
That's it?
through. Yeah, that's enough for me
Yeah.
until, and I'm not exactly sure when my MSD pregnant turned out to be fake. I think it's maybe the last 2 months. So the last fertility check I did at the end of the cycle, I still had like 60 million sperm per 1 milliliter. Yeah, the
Really?
morphology and the motility was all good. A couple defects, but it's,
Wow.
I don't expect
What's the
not,
lowest
not
it's
to have
been?
no
Has it ever been
defects.
low?
No, sorry.
Has it ever been low, your semen count?
Every time I do a semen analysis, as long as I don't take tren or nandrolone, then it's at least 22 million per 1 milliliter. Yeah. But if the last time I was on cycle longer period of time, you just see that the motility and morphology starts to
Yeah.
crash. And it took me I think 8 months or 9 months before. That's why I was off so long the last time, because I wanted to see how long it would take for my fertility to come back normal.
Yeah.
So the last fertility check I did around the time of the MRI and the ultrasound last year, then I had 180 million sperm and 4 milliliters of semen. And
Wow.
the doctor was like, holy shit, Steve, this is you should freeze this, which I did.
Yeah.
He was very impressed. So job done, right? Another accolade for myself.
Right. Right.
And then, of course, I wanted to sustain some of that. So I continued with ACG. And now I wanted to see how much of this fertility would remain on ACG monitor or improve if I were to do it for 3 or 4 months. Fortunately, my MSD pregnant turned out to be bunk, the last batch that I got.
How'd
So
you find that out?
I did a blood test. I felt fine. That's the weird thing. I felt fine. I was strong. My libido was great. I was kicking ass. I went to the hospital. I checked my ACG levels, 0, undetectable. I checked my total testosterone, 120. It should be at least 600. You know.
Now, are you
Estradiol bottomed
testing
out, and
LH and FSH?
no, that was starting to come back up. But of course, when you're on ACG, you're still shut down.
Sure.
Right? The HPTA is still shut down, and 6 weeks after your last injection, you still have a little bit of testosterone floating around from that last shot, or you're
Right.
converting some DHEA into testosterone.
Now, you're not taking any FSH then, just HCG.
I was just taking ACG, yeah. Because the problem here is in Thailand, I can get ACG from the pharmacy, all underground labs. So I tested all the underground labs here, all fake. I got my MSD pregnant from the hospital.
How'd you test it? Did you take with a pregnancy test? Did you do that?
So I did. So before I would just test my beta ACG levels on the blood work, and I saw that I was elevated out of range. So I was like, okay, it's fine. And then you don't test it for 4 months. And then you kind of go by your DHEA sulfate levels to see if that doesn't decline. So that was still within the middle of the reference range, because ACG also works on the adrenal gland, stimulating a little bit of adrenal neurosteroid production. So that was somewhere in the middle of the range. And then I came off cycle, and I didn't test my blood work for 6 weeks. I went to the hospital, I checked it, and everything came back as 0.
Yeah.
When did my ACG turn out to be bunk? And I think I got the latest shipment from the hospital by post, so not cold shipped, around the time I came off cycle. So
why don't you get it from the pharmacy if you can buy it there?
I can get it anywhere, but it's apparently all bunk now.
Even in the pharmacy?
Yeah, but that in the pharmacy, they only sell underground labs. So that's been transported with whatever dubious method, right? So I tested 7 brands, and none of them turn up positive on a pregnancy test or on blood work.
I'm confused. When I think of pharmacy in the States, at least, I think of FDA regulated
No, no, no,
pharmaceuticals.
no. It's like a smart shop in Holland. You can buy mushrooms under the counter, and then from the back they sell LSD. So here the
Okay.
farm. So here, yeah, if you know a good guy. So here, there's like 5 or 6 pharmacies in Bangkok that sell steroids from under the counter. So you have Bayer Testoviron, Erotics Medica Testoviron, and Clomid, and Cabergoline, all FDA approved and legitimate in Thailand. And then from the back, they got underground labs. I'm not going to mention any names, but there's a ton of underground labs here that distribute from India or Singapore or Cambodia or produced here, and that gets shipped all over the world. And they import their peptides from China somehow into Thailand. So there's a couple of pharmacies that sell that, and it's all somehow tolerated. And all the ACG that I tested, all the brands that I could get my hands on, 500 IUs on a pregnancy test, nothing positive. The control thing still went on, and I would inject the remaining 4,500 IUs and test my pee on the urine check just to see if there was no contaminants giving a false negative.
Yeah.
Nothing. So I've injected probably like 35,000 supposed ACG, 35,000 IUs of supposedly ACG over the duration of a week. Did my blood work again. Beta ACG levels undetectable.
Wow. So what are you gonna do?
It's up to the audience. So the video is actually going live right now. Maybe you should check some of the comments. You can actually check some of the comments. Let me pull up the video. So it went live 8 minutes ago.
Steve's pharma HCG was bunk.
Yeah, there it is. So let me go to this. 11 comments so far.
I'll make a comment.
Oh, let me share my screen. Where are you? Here. This one. Okay. So here I just explain it. I have a ton of US Pharma compounded Empower Pharmacy ACG that I bought for my TRT clinic before the FDA shut down compounding ACG production. Seems like it's even more valuable now. So I've heard from guys in the United States that ACG, if they're still able to source it, it's like $100 to $400 per vial.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what normal prices are, but that sounds like it'd be quite a bit.
I paid like $30 or something per vial. Again, I got it from the hospital, so I was assuming that it was legitimate. Let's see. Well, it's mostly just maybe we have to check back in 20 minutes.
I just commented. So do you get like a notification up top when I commented? That's how. But I probably have to turn it off because you get so many, right?
Yeah, I turned it off. I get way too many.
Yeah.
So I got my MSD Pregnal from the hospital. And it worked in the past. I think they just had an issue with shipment. So I checked the 10 vials that I have left in the fridge, all bunk. So that was wow. $300 down the drain. And of course my testicles and my fertility down the drain.
Well, that's what's so crazy about it. Like, and that's something to consider again with like TRT. I mean, if something crazy happens, you're dependent on this stuff, right? I mean, if you like, I don't know, if you travel and you lose it or something like where you are, I mean, it's just, what are you gonna do?
And like for me, I've gone through this process of ups and downs in bodybuilding that I'm like, whatever. I'll just wait. I don't really mind. I'm a little bit more peace, less aggressive, less irritable. And maybe just zen out for 2 months and then I go back on some TRT and I put that aggression to work in the gym. Right. So, but some people, they need this medically, or they're dependent on it for this feel good feeling that they get from ACG and testosterone. And they can't go off. They actually need it medically or for emotional support, as I would sometimes say. Yeah. And so sourcing right now is just getting more cumbersome. And I can order all the pharmaceutical ACG I want online, right? From Russia, from India, wherever. But it will take 2 weeks, 4 weeks to arrive. Because again, I was relying on my source locally to supply me with legitimate ACG. And I'm pretty sure due to the heat, by the time it comes here, it's severely denatured anyway. Because I don't think that all the underground labs and the MSD Pregnal are doing it on purpose. I think it's just a storage issue.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. I mean, all these peptides are heat sensitive,
Right.
Like a lot of the underground labs, only one had a vacuum. So that's already a red flag. Normally you would have to kind of put some air in there and then put the bacteriostatic water and then remove the air. So it's, deep repressurized properly. So it's not
We're actually having a shortage of bacteriostatic water in the States. Like I use it for like Botox injections and things like that. And obviously that comes to the office like very cold. And I've been trying, and there's like some workarounds, like you can use lidocaine as a
Yeah.
substitute. But
It's
yeah,
actually
it's
not
hard to get.
I believe it's not the bacteriostatic water itself, because
Right.
Hospira got bought by Pfizer,
Mhm.
and Pfizer has just been pumping out shit in vials the last 2 years.
Mhm.
So I think it's a shortage because of that. Because
Yeah.
I've also heard
Yes.
people that they can't find like 5 ml vials in certain
Yeah.
places, or
It's not the
particular.
actual water itself, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the reasons. So, right, even a guy like me that has access to everything still can get yeah,
A little
kind of
bit screwed
shafted.
there.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
screwed there. So
So I'm
so
curious, what do you, so when you want to have kids, like basically you just maintain your fertility, all that's
mhm,
good.
right,
You're freezing what you've got, but
right.
then I guess you'll still hope for a natural pregnancy in 2 years from
Yeah,
now,
that's
if there's
that's
an
that's a
issue
plan,
then.
right? That fertility stuff was back. So as of last test, at the end of my cycle, I still had like 60 million sperm, decent morphology, decent motility, and that I didn't freeze because apparently high testosterone levels impact the DNA of your fertility. The X chromosome, I believe Leo figured this out. So high testosterone levels have a negative effect on one of the chromosomes, where resulting in you getting, or more likely to get, girls. I would just want to leave it up to nature. So for me, it's probably one more cycle in the books, and then come off, do a fertility protocol, let everything come back normally, and then maybe 6 months later, I'm ready to conceive.
I know that
Yeah.
is a common myth talked about among bodybuilders, is that they're more likely to
Mhm.
get girls. I don't know if there's
Yeah.
really much research on it, but
No, I think so. There's one or two studies that show that high testosterone concentrations result in oxidative stress of the Y chromosome. Y is male.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot, but sometimes these things a little. So apparently, that Leo found a study about that, about the X and Y chromosome, that testosterone has a negative effect, might cause some DNA damage.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's probably why. Yeah, I didn't dig into it myself, but that could be a possible explanation.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have to look
Um,
into that.
I was saying, do you know crocodiles? Do you ever find watch like Animal Planet or something like this?
I mean, just general like nature
So,
documentaries
so
and
this is
stuff.
like a super. This is how it always. It's complete bro science.
Okay.
Crocodiles, they crocodiles build a mount and they lay their eggs in there. And if the temperature during the time of incubation, right, this mount is completely self-sufficient, so it regulates the temperature within, right? There's no, not like a chicken where they need to sit on the eggs. There is mount, you got the eggs in there, and if it's above a certain degree temperature, the entire nest is females, and below it's all males, or vice versa. That is what I remember. So what I speculated, total bro science, is because your testicles are hotter on cycle, you have more adductors. That's why you have girls.
Well, that's about the most bro sciencey thing I've ever heard. But hey, who knows? We can test it out and get some research going.
Somebody's going to clip this and say Steve has no idea what he's talking about.
I don't
Still
know
a
if this
fun
is like
story though.
too personal into your life, but I'm just curious. Is your
Uh,
wife significantly younger than you?
no, she's going to be 39 in about a month. So she's about 6 months older, 5 months older than I
Okay.
am.
I was
Yeah.
just curious in terms of obviously,
I can't
generally
date younger women,
speaking,
dude. Yeah, I go nuts.
yeah.
I go
But
nuts.
generally
Yeah.
speaking, as a woman, it gets technically 35 plus is a geriatric pregnancy
Yeah.
here, which is
Mhm.
fascinating.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe you had to end up doing
So
some
she went
fertility
through the
treatment.
ringer with all these examinations and ultrasounds internally, and pap smears, and we even had egg tested, and she's fertile as hell, dude.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
good.
crazy. Yeah, the doctor was like,
Throw a little Clomid in there, have some twins, and
yeah, no, 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 no. One at a time.
yeah,
We just got
right.
a new cat, so that's like practice run. So
Yeah.
we have a cat, and that's going well so far. So we might get a second one. And I see that like the maternal instincts of my wife are
Oh,
really
yeah.
starting to kick in. Yeah, dude, I was ready for kids like 6 years ago,
Really?
but I think yeah, yeah, like I reached my financial goals a couple of years ago, and I was like, you know what,
Mm.
I would love to have like one of these little terrorists
Yeah.
running around, and give them a proper childhood, like a do-over. And then
Right. Right. That's kind of how it
yeah,
goes.
right, not this bullshit 90s childhood that
Yeah.
was good from a TV perspective,
Right.
but my parents had no clue what they were doing. So I
Where'd
want
you
to do
grow
that
up?
over. Holland.
Holland. Okay.
Yeah, like a small city next to Amsterdam called Almere.
Okay.
It's a bumfuck town.
Really?
Yeah, let's not get started.
I don't have
So
kids, but it's so funny how I've heard a number of people say, like,
uh,
your emotions before you have kids, it's like maybe like +10 to -10. And then you get married and it's like
mm,
+20 or +100 to -100. Then once you have
yeah,
kids, it's like plus, 10,000 negative. Like basically the
yeah,
highest highs and the lowest lows are going to be
I'm
from your
sure.
kids.
Yeah,
And that
I
you just
noticed that
know.
with my cat. Or do you have pets?
I don't. I have like nothing right
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, so you get like super concerned for the smallest things. We only had her a week or
Hmm.
something. So you see something in her eye, you're like, fuck, does she have an eye infection?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have a little bit of diarrhea. What did she eat? Is there some of the like the termite spray somewhere still left in the house? You get like
Right.
super concerned.
Yeah.
And then you're watching TV and you go into a petting session and it's like the coolest thing ever. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get a second one, and then a year later or something, we're gonna have one of those kids, and then buy a bigger house so we can have a little me time. This house is
Yeah.
not big enough for cats and kids,
Right.
and then it's just TRT, man. Hopefully
It's
my
TRT
channel
for
will be
life.
big enough to keep it rolling without all the funky experiments.
Yeah. That's
Um,
great, man. I mean, it's interesting to see how I always find it very curious to see how people who are in the fitness world or just social media will
yeah.
maintain, right? Like I kind of know what I'm going to be doing the next 30 years, right? And it's like a pretty
Right.
clear
Yeah.
path for it. I mean, I have different options, but it's kind of
Hmm.
there. But I look in the fitness and it's like, so who's been here for like 20 years? I mean, maybe like Dave Tate kind of has been around for a long time.
Dave Tate, Scott Stevenson, John
Yeah.
Meadows. Wrist
John
is
Meadows.
the
Yeah.
rest is good soul. Dante Trudell, Ken Skip Hill, all the guys from the Intense Muscle Forum,
Yeah.
right?
And they've
Justin
kind of
Harris took a little
done it in
break,
different
but
ways. Like a lot of those guys are
yeah.
not big on social media. Like John Meadows
No,
was one of
and
the biggest,
they
but
should.
Dante is super against social media.
I'm
He's on
gonna get him on a
Instagram.
podcast one day.
Yeah, he's refused
Mark my
me,
words,
and I mean, he's even
Dante. I'm gonna
refused.
get you on a freaking podcast one day.
My
Might take
understanding
10
is
more years, but
he's even refused his friend Dusty Henshaw, and I know they're
they
super
did it.
close.
They did a
They
little
did do a little
collaboration.
training thing, right? They did
Yeah,
do that. That's true. Um, that was right before Dusty's accident, right?
I think so. Yeah,
That was a crazy.
that was a crazy accident. What's even
Yeah,
crazier is that he just bounced back like it never happened.
yeah. That
That
was
guy's a
so.
machine, dude.
Yeah.
That's a machine.
But like, some of like the guys like Omar Isuf, right? He got to like 800,000.
Yeah,
And then he's still around, but he's like, I think a lot of people transition,
you
he's
have
not doing
to.
the
Yeah,
same
you
thing.
have to. Like people usually you lose interest after they
Mhm.
follow somebody for about 5 to 7 years,
Yeah. You
and
kind of
and
heard everything that they're going to say.
that they have to say right, and then you kind of have to keep evolving. And
Yeah.
then what is that guy? That a black dude. He had like a training cap. He always wore a tank top with a black with some sort of training
CB
attire.
Fletcher.
From no, 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 way before that time. He would do like
Oh,
weird stretches, and he had some boot camp, and
I
um,
don't know.
I don't know. He was like breathing through your balls. This guy. I'm sure in the comment section it will go
Oh,
wild.
wait. L, shoot. Elliot, something.
Elliot Hulse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he started with
Yeah.
training stuff, and then he kind of went into this meal
Isn't he kind
improvement,
of
and
nuts now? I've heard a lot. I don't really watch him, but I've heard he's.
but there's a market for that too.
Yeah, I'm sure there's market for
Yeah,
everything,
no,
but
there's a market for nut jobs as well. So.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think I mean, when I had thought about a YouTube channel like a long time ago, like well before I
Mm,
started it. But I just said like, I have maybe 50 things, 50 videos I could make, but then like that's
mhm,
my opinions on everything. That's why I've stopped watching most channels because it's like
yeah,
I've heard like before I even watch this, I know what you're gonna say. And
right,
the great thing about a podcast is that there's always new guests, there's always new
right,
people to talk to. And I
mhm,
have so many interests that the difficulty is the people who have followed you for a reason. And if you
mhm.
start switching too much, they might not be as interested.
No, you
Right.
still need to stay authentic but right, if you change your tune over a couple of years because you're evolving as a person, like some of my old content, when I look back, I'm like, could have done that better,
Yeah.
and so I think as you evolve, of course, your audience evolves, and then like for me, for example, let's say 2 years from now, I don't do any extreme content anymore. It's all about longevity and health.
Hmm.
I'll develop a new following that's interested in that,
Sure.
and then the old guys that wanted me for the insulin and the growth hormone and the peptide experiments, they'll find a new guy, which
Yeah.
is totally
But
fine,
also sometimes
and
you
they'll move
grow
over.
with the channel. Like there are
Mhm.
some channels where I listen to it and it's almost like a nostalgic feel good thing. It's like I've just, you know what, I've watched you for 4 or 5 years. I just like
Yeah.
what you put out. And so I'm gonna
Mhm.
listen to it because it's you, right?
Right.
And like I'm an extreme example, of course, like a Joe Rogan. He has
Right.
guests, widely varying guests, and people
Mhm.
still tune in 1,000,000 plus views per podcast, right? I mean, obviously he's
Yeah.
like the peak, but just as an example.
Right. But it's super interesting, and he keeps, the guests coming. So it's always fun. I don't watch everything of Joe, but
Yeah.
if I see some science stuff or something interesting, and absolutely, I will watch it. Yeah, you kind of have to go with the market, I suppose. And a lot of bodybuilders need an exit policy,
Mhm.
because you can't do bodybuilding forever, you can't coach forever, you can't be on YouTube forever. So you need something else to do. But I think, if you're smart about business, you can always find something new. I mean, I've been trading in cryptocurrency for, and what is it, seven
Have it.
years now?
Okay.
Yeah, 7 years, and I have some other stock and other assets. And I never talk about it on the YouTube channel because people are not really interested in me talking
Sure.
about finance. Maybe we should do flashy shit. The finance
Yeah.
channels are always like
They're
about
always
flashy
crushing it.
stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I
So,
actually have a strong interest in the financial stuff and but I don't
mhm,
talk about it at all.
no,
But yeah, I dabble here and there, but it's
yeah,
not something
right,
like in my ideal world, I could have like anybody on the podcast. Like I could have a finance guy, I could have a psychologist, I could have that. But like as of now, like that wouldn't hit. Like I understand people follow it for fitness, and I can veer off a little bit, maybe fitness and then
right,
health, fitness and
exactly,
mindset. But I
yeah,
couldn't be like, hey guys, here's our finance expert. It just would be
no,
very out of
exactly.
place. So
So I think that would be my exit policy. If I still like YouTube, I might just transition into a travel or a finance channel.
yeah.
Yeah, with then, instead of doing bodybuilding, hardcore bodybuilding stuff, with some finances in here and there, which I have plenty of guys that I recommended stuff over the years, and they're now set, just by things they picked up from my YouTube channel. They make $10,000 a month, you know, and they're, living the dream. And I think if I transition to a finance channel, talk a little bit more about investments and money management and all that kind of stuff, with some meal improvement mixed in, for the TRT guys, I think that would do well also.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
If I'm still interested in YouTube, because how long can you be on YouTube before you get bored making videos?
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot, like I did coaching for 10 years, and after a while I'm like, you know what, now I have five clients, and it's great. I don't really like those five guys that I have. But when I had 50, oh man, you have these
Oh,
weeks
yeah,
where
you
you're
burn
like,
out.
oh, I
Yeah,
need
no,
some
you
me
always
time,
always need something new. Yep.
Yeah, right. So you just reinvent yourself. But it's guys that don't reinvent themselves, it's, what was the term? Adapt or die, or
Yeah,
something
yep.
like that. Yeah, adapt or die. And the guys that don't adapt, that just get pushed to the sideline, and everybody forgets about them, and they don't know how to make money and continue with their business. So
Yeah, for sure, man.
you know,
So, I think we'll definitely have to touch base again. I say let's not wait another year. Maybe we'll do one in, like,
yeah.
6 months or something, see how you're
Uh
doing
huh.
with everything. But I think your journey is fascinating, man. I think that
Thank you.
you're so transparent, and it's a lot of these and again, just from my perspective, I've mentioned before we started recording that I see
Mhm.
similarities in myself with Derek, but also like with you and like how
Right.
analytical you are. And if I was going to go down that path, that's
Mhm.
how I would do it. I would have tests before, I'd have tests after. I
Yeah.
even like I have such a ridiculous amount of blood work, and a lot of that is just
Mhm.
because I experiment with things. What supplements are out there, with
Right.
diets? I mean, I've tried so many different diets just
Did
to
you
see.
did you get your hands dirty with Turkesterone and Ecdysterone already?
No, no, I haven't messed with that. I gotta, I gotta look at some research. I
Ah,
think, but
still natty, dude.
yeah,
It
I'll
doesn't
be
shut down
honest.
your HPTA.
I've not like I'm not a big supplement guy. I'm a
Mm,
supplement guy from a health standpoint. I do think that there are a lot of health supplements out there that can
mhm,
not, they're not like pharmaceutical level, but it's like, hey, we
yeah,
can help a little bit here, diet, all that
mhm,
stuff. When it comes to like bodybuilding supplements, I've never like I take creatine, never noticed anything. I take things like
yeah,
that have research because it's like, why not? It's so cheap, kind of a
mhm,
thing.
right.
Um, but
Yeah, at this
most
point,
not.
creatine is almost free, so
Yeah, yeah.
you might as well
Um,
take it. But
right.
of
And
course,
and
yeah,
there's some potential health benefits of creatine as well.
right, yeah, mhm.
But yeah, the Turkesterone, I'd have to spend some time researching it to give like an informed
Well,
opinion
the
on it.
the problem is that there's not so many studies, and most of the studies, they don't look very promising. So this is one of those compounds where it's like anecdotal experience, and some guys respond very, very well to it. They don't take any drugs, they get great on their lifts. Maybe that's placebo,
I was gonna
because
say,
it
what do you
doesn't.
think? Because I know like Greg Doucette sells it. I
Mhm.
know
Everybody
Derek.
sells it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got studies that show pretty much nothing. You've got the evidence-based fitness community who says kind of like
Mhm.
this is like kind of BS. But then
Yeah.
you have people who say, "Hey, I'm noticing a lot." So when I hear that, I think either one, studies aren't picking something up. Two, you're lying. Or
Yeah.
three, placebo.
Where's your
Or
discount code? You're lying, dude. You're
right.
just trying to sell shit. Yeah.
Or four, it's tainted, right? At which,
Yeah.
that can
Mhm.
happen too.
Yeah,
And only
that can
like one
happen.
of those four options would I find acceptable. So, you
Right.
gotta be a little bit careful.
So tainted, I think there's some tainted Turkesterone on the market
Mhm.
because, like, when I took Turkesterone from Gorilla Mind, it didn't change anything on my blood work parameters.
Mm.
Drug free, didn't change anything. And I took it when I was taking steroids, and the only thing that I noticed is that but my SHBG went up. So
It went
some
up.
people it went up.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's interesting because most guys on steroids, their SHBG goes down.
Right.
And then you're losing out on an additional pathway that SHBG receptor complex, when activated with testosterone or other androgens, they send like a non genomic signal to the androgen receptor, making it more potent. I still don't completely understand this process, but it goes with cyclic adenosine monophosphate. Concentrations within the cell itself increase, which improves androgen receptor mediated gene transcript. Oh, fancy fuck words,
Mhm.
of course. Trying to explain is always a bit of a hassle, but it's in most people's best interest to keep their sexual binding globulin somewhat elevated. And when you're on steroids, it goes down to the single digits. So you're losing out on some of the anabolism. And I feel that turkesterone might be able to mitigate some of that. Now, will it raise your SHBG to 90? No. The highest I was able to get was like 15, 17, but that's
Did you
still better
notice
than
anything
8.
results-wise when you took it naturally?
The problem is I'm already on steroids and I have my muscle connection or muscle memory.
Yeah.
So at that time, I'm tracking everything. My nutrition is the same. The only thing that I noticed is got a little bit stronger, but maybe one increment. But is that being on steroids longer, placebo, or the actual effects? It's
Yeah.
hard to tell. I
Yeah.
did
No
notice
shit.
that when I started the Anavar 5 milligrams, so I did Turkesterone, then Ecdysterone, all blood work before and after. It's all documented on my channel. And then I started Anavar, 5 milligrams per day, which is a bikini dose. And I felt that I'd hit harder than I would expect. Like within 5 days, everything was just like hard as a rock. So is that because the SHBG was somewhat sustained? But Anavar doesn't really have an effect. It doesn't really bind to SHBG. It has one of the lowest affinities for the SHBG molecule. So it's so hard to say. I do feel like it's proven with blood work that my SHBG went up,
Yeah.
but how much of a net worth effect? And is it worth the money in this context when you're already on steroids? Probably not.
Yeah.
Right. But it's
Yeah.
one of those fun, novel experiments to run. I do see people that put on a plate on their bench and 1/2 plates on their squats by going
Mhm.
on Turkesterone. Yeah.
Mhm.
But not everybody. Same as with creatine, not everybody responds to it.
Yeah, like I have no response to creatine that I can
Mhm.
tell. The blood work
No,
stuff is
me
so
neither.
interesting because it's so hard to tell. I mean, one, because it's hard to get access to that much blood work, and I mean I get it
Yeah.
easily, but
Mhm.
and things sometimes you just don't have an explanation. Like I'll tell you one experiment I'm kind of dealing with now. So my cholesterol
Mhm.
levels, and
Yeah.
over the years, I started noticing they were like 200 plus for total. LDL was like I had a 130, I had a 140, and I was like, all right,
Yeah.
this is like not high, but it's getting to a
Mhm.
level where like, do I need to consider a statin? And then
Mhm.
2 times ago, almost just randomly, my total was 142 and my LDL dropped to the 70s. And like nothing
Did you
that I
change
can
anything
think of.
about your
The only
food
thing I can
sources?
think of, food was the same. I
Mhm.
did go from weight training 3 days a week to 5 days a week, but I'm like, that
Yeah.
should not have that much of an effect. Repeated the
And
test
mhm.
again, 140-ish with
Okay.
LDL in the 70s. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And then I just did it again and it was like 160-ish LDL, like 90. So now I'm going to
Yeah.
go back to 3 days a week weight training and
Right. See.
see. But again, let's say it's back up to like 200.
Mhm.
Well, I got 140, but then I got a 160. So then I'm going to be thinking to myself, was it already trending back up, or was it,
Yeah,
like you really need so many data points. I would need like weekly lipid profiles and then
and I
try to
think
determine it. And like that's a huge change. I mean, if a drug did that and brought you from a 140, I mean, I was going to say it would be like the most sold drug, but statins are the most sold drug, right?
yeah, they
So
are, they are,
so
yeah, yeah.
that
But
really is
people
it.
don't track their macros like you do, and they
Yeah,
they don't eat
yeah.
like you do, you know?
Right, so it's just fascinating.
No, it's like you're always a little bit of a hypochondriac in that sense, right? You try to get as much data as possible, but it's I think there's also a little bit of paralysis by analysis in our field where you just get too much data. Like I could, pick apart my ultrasound and find all kinds of things wrong with my heart. And then you talk with a couple specialists and they're like, yeah, you're fine.
Mhm.
You have to pay attention to this. Don't let the left ventricular hypertrophy get any worse. It's certainly not the worst we've seen,
Well, I was
you
gonna say,
know?
you do have to keep in mind who you're seeing,
Mm,
because I've seen sports cardiologists, I've seen some of, like, the best in the country, and I've seen,
yeah.
just generic cardiologists, and I don't wanna say generic, but, like, your standard cardiologist is
Mhm.
used to seeing bedridden people with heart failure. So you come
Yeah.
in and you're 10% worse than normal, they're like, "You're fine," right? You have to
Because they see people that are terminal all the time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So you have to
Uh-huh.
consider who you're seeing. You should see
Yeah.
somebody who is focused on keeping you ideal and
Yeah.
athletic and not, just as one example.
Yeah, this is where all the athletes of Thailand go to. So
Mm,
and the royal family kind of gave
mm.
it away now. But it is now this is a very good hospital. Of course, they're not so familiar with bodybuilders, but most bodybuilders don't really do screening here in Thailand because
Mhm.
it's expensive. And well, you can go do an MRI or buy 10 kits of growth, right? That's how
Yeah,
bodybuilders think.
right.
So and it's they usually don't see so many strength athletes. Like the Olympic weightlifting team, I think, is at another hospital. So, you do the best thing you can. And I always tell the audience that listen, if you're going to be a bodybuilder or fitness, you're just stepping away from the medical community because they don't have any experience with this, what we're doing with our body, high
Yeah,
protein intake and strenuous stuff and well, drugs potentially, right? And all these weird supplements that you tell your doctor, I'm using this for this and this for that, and they're just mortified
yeah,
what you're doing to yourself. So we'll do the best we can, but I think it's going to take another 25 years
yeah, probably.
before really because I mean you look back now 10 years. I mean we're already scratching our head of what we did 10 years ago. So I'm sure if you fast forward 10 years from now, we're going to
Right,
scratch our heads what we're doing to ourselves at this moment.
for
Whether
sure.
you're drug free or enhanced. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we do the best we can, man.
for sure, man.
Do the best you can.
So,
So if you were to see my EKG and it was yours, my
mhm.
ultrasound, but it was your heart, would you be worried?
Well, it would be an improvement from mine in terms of dilation. So
Okay.
I'd be happy about the dilation. I would
Okay.
be wary about the thickness. Like, I
Right.
would not wanna start a cycle with that
Mhm.
thickness
Right.
because it's likely gonna grow, right?
I'm
And then
sure.
you
Yeah.
start getting into some troublesome areas. So if I
Mm.
had yours, I would personally say it's a good thing that you're off. Stay off for a little
Mhm.
while. Maybe consider a little bit higher beta blocker dose
Mhm.
and, retest after 6 months.
Right. So what I'll do is in about a month, first I'll do a full examination of my kidneys because I asked the doctor, said, "Do you see there's a reason for a CT scan now?" I said, "No, absolutely not.
Mhm.
All this radioactive iodine that you're going to inject is more stress on your kidneys than useful." I said, "Well, please let me do it because everybody in the bodybuilding scene is dying from heart attack. So my MRI was good, my EKG is or my ultrasound is acceptable. Let me do a CT scan so I can write off all the examinations." So first I have to do quite a extensive research on my kidney to make sure that they're healthy, right? Make sure that they're filtering properly, which I think it's totally fine because my cystatin C has always been in range.
How many CT
And
scans have you had?
sorry,
How many CT scans have you had?
zero,
Oh, okay.
zero. Yeah. So the doctor said it's not worth the exposure to this radioactive iodine, but I
Yeah.
just want to do it. So she said, okay, please check your kidneys first, which I don't mind doing. And then we'll do a CT scan maybe a month from now, and then see if there's any blockage or plaque or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I do have coronary artery disease in my family, so
Okay.
I've been super attentive to my lipid levels and my blood acidity and my inflammatory markers and all that stuff. But still, without the CT scan to kind of prove it, you're pissing in the dark.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
I agree with him. CTs, they do have like, obviously, I take X-rays of my patients all the time, but it's like it's such
Yeah.
a minimal exposure. But
Right.
CTs, I mean, you do actually have to be careful. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a statistical increase in cancer incidence for people who have had multiple CTs.
Right.
So,
Right. So I'll just do one now just to see, just to scratch it off the list. If there's any plaque or worse plaque than is acceptable for my age, of course, I'm going to be even more proactive.
yep.
And yeah, maybe do that every 5 to 10 years, depending on where it's needed. 'Cause I
Yeah.
do have a history with coronary artery disease in my family.
Right.
That's something to pay attention to. Yeah, just trying to find excuses to keep going.
Yeah, right. Try to stay. No, man, I'm sure there's always that temptation just in the back of your head.
Always, yeah, even TRT, but even TRT can take its toll.
Yeah.
That's
Well, what
that
dose are you doing a TRT at, or will you be doing a TRT at?
I probably do like 280 milligrams again, so that's 150 milligrams a test and 125
Okay, so
milligrams of primo.
not like a true TRT.
No, no, still need a little bit extra.
Okay, just
Yeah,
curious. Yeah,
yeah.
because I
I
think
was
if
like,
you're eventually on, like, let's say, like 100-ish, I mean,
mhm.
obviously, it's gonna depend on the person. I don't think most people are gonna have any issues with that,
But
you
in
know?
that case, I would rather do ACG monotherapy because then you're sustaining testicular function. And I've
Yeah,
deterred so many older guys from like TRT because I told them, so you can use ACG and get the same results because you just stimulate your testicles more than your pituitary is able to with LH and FSH. And
yeah,
they use
I
like 500
agree.
IUs 3 times a week and they have good levels and they just stay there. I'm like, okay, fine, job done.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know.
like the pros and cons. I mean, so there's less research on HCG monotherapy long term
Hmm.
compared to testosterone replacement therapy is one thing. Cost is probably gonna be similar.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Now, for now, it's almost impossible to do.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a higher estrogen conversion with
Hmm.
HCG. So even if you have
True.
700 and 700 nanograms per deciliter total, TRT
Mhm.
700 is gonna be like this,
Yeah.
HCG is gonna be like this, and then you're gonna have a higher conversion to estrogen, which is
Yeah.
still more similar to natural levels, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's bad, it's just something to be aware of.
Right.
But I can see the logic in it, right? And then you're only shut down at the pituitary rather than being shut down at the pituitary and the
And the
testicles.
testicles. Right.
So there's certainly arguments for it. I don't believe there's much research on it long term.
No, there's not so much research on it. It's again, leading by example
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit. Of course, you still have to make sure that your HCG is legit because otherwise you turn out like me, and it's
yeah,
you don't want to turn out like me. You're like, what the fuck?
yeah. Right. So
120 nanograms per deciliter.
yeah,
Oh,
it's interesting. You feel
yeah,
so okay though.
yeah, but I don't know, man. I'm happy where I am.
Like if you didn't see that number, do you
No,
think
so
you'd
that's
be?
what I said in the video. It's like
Yeah,
I felt fine. I'm strong. My libido is good. I'm energetic.
yeah.
I go to the gym. I kick ass, with reps in reserve. So
Hmm.
maybe that's the difference. I
Right.
started eating more. Right, to get a little bit fluffy. My abs are gone. Too bad. So all in all, I felt good. And then I saw the numbers. I'm like, do I really feel good?
Hmm.
Is
Right.
my libido
Right.
really great?
A
Am I
little
really that
ED all of a
strong?
sudden.
Yeah, yeah, suddenly like
Yeah.
it did retracted completely. So
Right. Right.
so and then after that, it's so weird because like you said, I go to the gym after getting the result and I'm less strong.
Mm.
And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't push so hard because I have no recovery. It's so
Yeah.
mental.
Yeah.
And this is the paralysis by analysis because I basically had my head in the sand up until the blood work results. And then, I was training and leaving reps in reserve and recovering just fine, a little bit sore, but not too bad. And everything was going smoothly. And I get those results shoved in my face and it suddenly flew off, which, being androgen deficient, again, it's not the end of the world. It's not like I got a calcium score of 5,000 or something.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I feel fine, but okay, I'm close to death.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is easily mitigated by going on TRT or using some testosterone booster. So yeah, I don't know. That's why sometimes I wonder, like guys that are like feel like this, like how bad do they really feel? Because I don't feel
Right.
so bad.
Yeah. But it's
I don't
also
feel.
relatively short term, right? So
Yeah, it's only been 6 weeks, so continuing like this for 2 months as my physique deteriorates. No thanks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No
think it's
thanks.
very hard to gauge anything with that short of a period. So, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
were, well, I mean, obviously your testosterone level is your testosterone level, but it may very well be that 4 weeks into it, you were still relatively normal, right? So,
Yeah, I
from your
think
previous
so. Of
cycle,
course, it's still declining. And is this 120 nanograms per deciliter? Is that still from the injection depot that I did 6 weeks ago?
right?
I mean, the testosterone enthate in castor oil has a phenomenally long half life, like
Right.
34 days or something. So I'm sure there's some residual testosterone in the picture. And then a week later, I did triptorelin because it's the only thing that I had available,
Ooh.
100 micrograms. So that was able to raise my LH and FSH levels to about 3 to 4
So
million.
with a triptorelin, where are you getting
This
that?
pharmaceutical. Yeah, I got this gold
Truly
chip.
pharmaceutical?
Truly pharmaceutical,
That one you gotta
fair,
be, as you know, very
fairing,
careful with.
fairing pharmaceuticals, decapeptyl, 100 micrograms. Yeah.
Yeah. Just for people
So, and I
who maybe
can't
don't
even get
know this.
ACG. What the hell, man?
Yeah, just for people who don't know, the reason I'm saying that, as Steve
Yeah.
obviously knows, high dose triptorelin can be used for castration, essentially.
Sterilization, yeah. Yeah, it's prescribed
So,
for sexual deviants. They get
yeah.
11.75 milligrams administered a couple times, and they're long acting, or 3.75, but I think that's mostly for like prostate cancer and stuff, like inoperable prostate cancer that has metastasized. So they sterilize you so you don't produce any testosterone,
Mhm.
DHT, estradiol, nothing, or zero, right?
Yeah,
And yeah, but they also have dosages of 100 micrograms.
right.
And these are used to determine, man, what was the medical term? I linked a study in that video. It's like if people are like getting into puberty too early, and they want to see if the pituitary is over secreting LH and FSH, so they administer triptorelin
Hmm,
to see if that, like in a single dose, to see if they go sky high. So in
interesting.
my case, it
Not
went from
familiar.
like 0.05 to about 3.5, 4.
What did your LH?
Yeah, LH and FSH.
Hmm,
Yeah, so it went up quite a bit. Testosterone went up from 120 to 210.
hmm.
Nothing much. Yeah, so I don't notice a difference.
Yeah, interesting.
Besides that, I got the blood work results and said, okay, pituitary is still functional. Yay.
There you go, good.
Yeah, that's about it. And I just lost another $65 in a single
Right.
injection.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was not cheap. Yeah, but at least that worked
Yeah, no,
somewhat.
for sure.
The question is, of course, will it sustain my HPT? I highly doubt it. I think if I test it now, it's been a week now, I think my testosterone is 100, 150.
Yeah, and no Clomid or enclomiphene or anything like that?
No, because the clotting risks. So I
Hmm,
did a raloxifene experiment early this year to see if raloxifene can shrink gyno, which it can, about 50%, not 100%, but 50. And now it's still, well, I got a little bit of fat back, but now it's still shrunk 50%. So I did reduce it quite significantly. And then I wanted to continue that, but I realized the clotting risks and situations that we're in right now. So I didn't. You see the people dying from blood clots. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, no serums. This is not a good time to take serums.
yeah. Hmm,
So and then testosterone boosters or TRT. That's my only option. But as I feel right now, I could continue for another 2 months. Of course, will I feel the same 2 months from now? Not really
we
sure.
shall see. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Where's your testosterone levels at now?
I'm on the lower end. Like my dad in his
Mm-hmm.
50s was like in the 600s or something. When I
Mm-hmm.
was 21 years old as a junior in college, it was tested once at like it was too late. It was like 11 a.m. You're supposed to get it earlier
Mm-hmm.
than that. And
Yeah.
it was like 350. And then
Oof.
I tested it again at like 8 a.m. and it was 450. So, I'm sure if I kept my levels at like 1,000 plus, even with just like
Mhm.
TRT, that would probably be beneficial. But I mean, I guess I'm just generally tired, but I feel like who's not tired? Um,
No, most people, even on TRT, you're tired. You
yeah.
just train harder, and then you make yourself more tired. Unless you
Right,
leave
right.
reps in reserve, then you're actually quite energetic.
Yeah.
Which I'm learning now at the age of 38.
Yeah. Well, that's what
Yeah.
this past 6 months has been. I'm actually been doing like a training experiment with this guy, Steve Hall, Revive Stronger.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
so I've been getting coached with him for 6 months, and this is the last week. And it was just kind of
Okay.
one of those things, like just for fun. It was like, you know what? I've been doing this for so long, and I've
Hmm.
basically been the same for like 5 years now. So let's
Right.
just see. That's why I bumped it up from 3 days a week to 5 days a week in the gym.
Right.
Um, I'm gonna put like a long video on everything, and then I'm gonna have
Mhm.
Steve on for a podcast about it. But
Mhm.
not really anything's changed. I think,
I think you're just maxed out, and plus you're a busy guy, with your
yeah,
practice and everything that you need to do. And as you get older and the responsibilities start to pile up,
oh yeah,
the bodybuilding, like, and I'm lucky that I make money from the sport.
yeah,
Like I can be a full time bodybuilder if I wanted to, but if you got other stuff to do, yeah, it's difficult to combine everything. And I think most of the audience would feel the same way. I mean, I think 99% of the audience that are watching us are guys that go to work and do their thing, and then have to go to the gym afterwards when they're
yeah,
tired. That's why pre workout is so popular.
right.
And then there's more stuff in meal prep and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Where I'm in a very luxurious position. I wake up 12 o'clock. I roll out of bed. Right, it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning here now, so I changed my schedule.
Right.
I roll out of bed. I play with the cat. I feed the cat. I feed myself, or I do some cardio. I feed myself, and then I do emails, right? And then do some more emails, record some videos, take a nap, feed the cat, play with the cat, and
Yeah,
do some more emails, go to the gym. Right, so my life is kind of easy,
yeah.
in that
Well, I
sense.
told
It's
Steve too, like,
yeah,
because I didn't want anybody to think like, oh, there's like these reasons or these reasons. Like I told him, like, whatever you tell me to do, I'm gonna do it
mm,
100%. If you want to give me double sessions, I'll do it. If you want high
yeah,
volume, and I made sure, like, I really was sleeping 8 hours almost every night.
mhm.
Like I did put 100% into it, but like you said, I think there's some people have this idea that like, well, there's no real natty limit, and it's like, look, I understand maybe you can't define it,
Life,
but like
life is their natty limit. Stress,
it's
dude.
yeah, and like, I don't know, like, it's in theory, if I had the perfect environment and, like,
Mhm.
literally nothing else was going on, could I gain a little bit more? Like,
2 more
sure.
pounds, 2 or 3
Right.
more pounds. That's
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can't sleep more than 8 hours a night. Like, physically, I literally, like, even if I have a day off, my body will wake
Mhm.
up. Like, I won't sleep longer than that. Uh,
Take a month of no work, you can sleep all day if you
I
want.
will say
Like
there's
no
serious.
work at all, like nothing you have to manage. Like
Yeah.
if you could live the body, like I have several clients who are or had several clients who are financially set, right? They invested in Bitcoin very, very early. They have all the money in the world. They don't need to do anything besides their passion. They can sleep 10 hours and they train whenever they want, right? They have access to 24-hour fitnesses. They take a little bit of gear, they enjoy themselves and they make phenomenal progress because they
Yeah.
have
Well,
zero
that's probably
stress.
true because I definitely wake up some days thinking about like, gotta hire this person, I had a new employee who called
Mhm.
out 6 of her first 9 days. I'm like, "How is this cra"
No.
Yeah, so obviously she's not with us anymore, but
Yeah.
but like,
I let her go.
well, she made it easy on me. She left, which is it's a lot better from an employer standpoint for somebody to
Yeah,
leave than
that's
for you to
true.
fid them. So I was very thankful for that.
That's
But
true. Yeah.
the point is, yeah, like, of course, I have a million things on my mind, right? So,
Mhm.
it's hard to give your whole life to that, unless you're
It
very
is.
young or very, very wealthy.
I think so, but let's be honest. Like for 99% of the people, bodybuilding is not going to pay.
For
It's
sure.
just a hobby. It's just a hobby, and it can be a very fun and interesting hobby. Like you've got your podcast, and you're obviously very very involved. But are you really making money with this? No, right?
Yeah,
No,
and it
and
all goes
and
into charity anyway on my end. So
right. That's so right. So right. So you got this charities that you work for. Like I'm in a very fortunate situation that I was able to make my passion my income, and you've got your passion in the dental practice, right? And now you have to juggle the dental practice with your bodybuilding aspirations. And if you
yeah,
give up one, the other would be better.
that's definitely true. I try to not let it interfere, but the reality is
Yeah.
like there are excuse me, there are people who in the same way that I watch fitness videos and I make fitness videos, like they just listen to dentistry all the time. That's their life.
Yeah.
And like I'm a good clinician, but it's just impossible that if it's all you're doing that you could match that. And same thing with podcasts. Of course, with the podcast, if I quit my job, I could do
Hmm.
this 10 times more, right? You can't
Right.
100% max out multiple things. So it's
Hmm.
just reality. But I'm very happy personally with my balance because this is kind of like my hobby and I where I meet a lot of people and I've had great experiences.
Hmm.
But a lot of people have asked like, oh, will that you ever make this full time? And like there's just really not a lot of desire to make this like my full-time thing. Like you said, when
No,
you were
but
training 50 people, well, go
it
ahead.
gets tiring fast. And of course, if you have like multiple things you need to juggle, it actually makes you appreciate the time that you spend on each thing.
Mhm. Right,
That's what I've
exactly.
noticed. So I could be such better investor. Right?
Mhm.
completely dive into the financial aspect and just do pure investing, it would be 10 times more lucrative, right? I would not be on social media flaunting. I would just do my investing shit and nobody would know,
Yeah.
right? Just like people don't really know now. So I'd like to keep it that way. But I could be a way better investor and financial person if I digged into it more. And I'm sure if I don't spend the time on trading and all the financial stuff that I do right now, I could be a better bodybuilding media outlet or information outlet. But
Sure.
otherwise, I go nuts. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd have an hour extra in my day if I didn't get a cat. But I enjoy having a cat. Yeah, this is my first cat, so it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
new and
Right.
fun. Yeah,
Right. Right. No, man. There's
he's
always, as we were saying
sleeping
earlier, there's
soundly now.
always something more to do, right? You could do something you
Mhm.
get passionate, then you kind of move on to the next thing. Not move on like you leave the stuff behind, but there's always like
Mhm.
you kind of get to a point where you've mastered this thing as much as you want to
Mhm.
master it, and then there's the next thing, right? Or you stagnate in life. So which do you want?
Yeah, right. And you can master something else entirely. Also, this is the fun part, right? When you've mastered one thing or became into like the top 2% of our people that are very knowledgeable on a particular subject, you can move on to something else,
Mhm.
and learn more about that. So maybe 5 years from now, I'll do something completely different and try to get better in that. Right now, I'm trying to learn as much about cats as possible. That's my yeah, because I know finances, I know bodybuilding, and cats. It's kind of like yeah,
That's gonna
don't
be
really know.
your new channel. You're gonna
Yeah,
transition.
that's my new channel.
Steve
Yeah,
the Cat Whisperer.
I tried to record a video with my cat, but she didn't. She was not up for it.
No.
So starts stalking. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She was like, nope, nope.
Nope.
So
All right, man. Well, I thought this was awesome.
for sure,
Um,
it was fun.
we'll
Good to catch
put
up.
it out. We'll split it up, and
Yeah.
I don't know who's. I guess I will just both say where people can find us, right? Because I don't know which one's going to go on which.
Where
So
can people find you?
yeah, so Brains and Gains podcast, and on Instagram it is Dave_McConey. People who have questions. I'm usually responsive to DMs, so you can usually reach me there.
Cool.
How
You
about
can
you,
find me
Steve?
at the Vigorous Steve YouTube channel, Instagram Vigorous Steve, website vigoroussteve.com, Vigorous Steve anywhere. Basically, we'll put all the social media links down below. We'll get some clips and cut this up left and right, but we'll link everything in between. So if you guys, we'll start at the start wherever
Yeah,
wherever
yeah.
this
Wherever we
podcast
go.
might end up, and then navigate your way through the link so you can watch the full podcast on both of our channels. It was
Cool.
fun to catch up, man. Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Loved it.
I'll talk to you soon. Take care.